Bam, bam,
I'm like
bam.
covering myself, so I don't even know how I like. How do I look? How do I look? How do I look? Let's go.
Wait till this plane goes over because I don't know if it picks up.
Oh, I should probably turn off my heater.
Hold, please. Okay, for real. Featuring 2 certified podcast rewind. I don't know how to read. Hey everyone, what?
Sorry. I'm sorry, just the reset. And
And customer service voice.
okay, sorry.
That's okay. You ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Riley comes in. Angel City on the block.
Corner kick presented by Cedar Sinai.
Shifty work into the box. And across, it's in! Oh, it's Leroux! It's a dream return!
Hey everyone, welcome to Casual FC, an Angel City match preview and footy therapy pod featuring 2 podcast certified footy therapists. But today we're adding soccer terms refresher class to the list of things we do. I'm your host, Angela Morales, with my ever creative, ever doodling co-host, Mario Salazar.
Hey everyone. Yeah, we are doing a revisit of our Soccer 101. We were talking about what shows to be planning while we were getting ready for this next season. You know, we have a little off-season time, and we realized that our Soccer 101 terms that we did last time was before we went onto this beautiful video app.
Yeah.
And everything was just being talked about, and it was kind of hard to visualize some things if you're a visual learner. So here we are.
All right. So like Mario said, this is our little soccer explainer for the newbies, the casuals, or for your friend that's never, ever paid attention to anything sports related and wants to come to a match with you. Just get them the quick and dirty. That's what we're going to go through.
This will be a really great, like, 101 for all the questions that they're going to ask you during the game that you'll also be explaining.
Yeah. So either have them watch it or listen to it, or you do that. Grab your emotional support juice pouch, because after the week we've all had, we need it. And we're recording this on a different day than normal. It's National Girls and Women in Sports Day. So happy day to all who celebrate. And yeah, let's rock and roll. Tell me about the beautiful game.
All right. Well, this is Soccer 101, brought to you by the Shithousery series of podcasts. I don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, we're just going to go through all of the stuff brought to you by us. And hey, a little plug, join our Discord. It's fun. You can ask whatever questions you want. Everybody's really nice, and we have a good time. So here's your footy refresher.
And if you hurry up and join before too long, Katie might name a plant after you.
Oh, yeah. We got a plant named after us. That's pretty
Yep.
cool. All right. So our footy refresher, we're starting off with, what is it called? It's called soccer, football, footy. Honestly, call it whatever you want. It's, we're not going to be sticklers, or there is no right, wrong way to call the sport. Some people are going to be a-holes about it, and let them be a-holes about it because they're just a-holes. But beyond that, call it what you want. The fun little fact that we had about all of this was the fact that soccer is actually an English term. A real quick backstory on all of that is that a lot of people in Oxford used to put ER at the end of sports in order to just kind of like, it was slang talk basically. And so they used to say a sporter was like a general person that played sports. A rugger was someone who played rugby. And then a soccer was someone who played association football, or soc for short. So soccer was the term for a person that played soccer, football. And so really it's theirs. The word soccer was a recognized way of calling association football, which was soccer basically up until the 1970s. And then people in the UK it started becoming popular in the US, and they were like, no, we can't call it that anymore. And so they decided to go back to football. Whatever. It's called what you want to call it. Just have fun with it.
Pretty much.
All right. And our next little thing, Angel City plays in the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League. There are multiple leagues now by this point that you're watching this. There's the USL Super League, which is the other Division I professional women's soccer league in the US. It's a thing. We can talk about it later.
Welcome to women's sports in America. It's not the first time it's happened for soccer or any other women's sport.
Yeah. And then there's the WSL League over in the UK. And then there's also the brand new Canadian League, which I don't actually know.
I want to say it's like the Northern League or something like that. I don't remember the name. I haven't committed it to memory yet.
Yeah. So all of those, and that one just started like this year. So all of those are out there. Important thing to know, Angel City plays in the National Women's Soccer League, which is the NWSL. We also play at the beautiful BMO Stadium right in downtown LA. It's right next to the Coliseum, right across the street from USC. It's by the museums, the
Expo Park,
the Natural History Museum, the Science Center, purpose-built stadium, and that's where Angel City plays. And it is the best.
It's a fantastic stadium, genuinely.
Just go. Just go. There's no reason why you shouldn't go to a game. Just go. It's going to be great times all around. And of course, we have our supporter section, something that is well known throughout people that watch soccer or that think about soccer is all the kind of very kind of rabid fans, and the American League is no different. We have our supporter section, and our supporter section is actually called La Fortaleza, means the fortress. And it's on the northern end of the stadium. It's standing room only. It's pretty steep because of the standing room only. And it just creates a really fun atmosphere. All the different supporters groups are in this section, drumming, chanting, waving flags. So if you really want to be in the thick of it, this is the section to be in. If you like a seat to yourself, like Angela and I do, then there's 3 other sides to the stadium that you can be
If I
in.
was like 15 years younger, I would probably have seats in the north end, like in La Fortaleza, like I'd be like front row. But your girl's body hurts, and stadium seats are already bad enough, and you want me to stand on concrete for 4 hours? No, it's not gonna happen. Not these days.
I mean, the game is not 4 hours, but supporters, they are there before and after, and they're there to support. So yeah, it's fun times though. It's a really fun experience to be within all of that and just experience a game from that vantage point. It's great.
So basics of the game. The clock is a running clock. It's confusing, especially if you come from any other timed sport that's not soccer. There's 2 45-minute halves, so 90-minute total match. But the clock doesn't stop. There's no timeouts. Everything's just continuous, which kind of makes sense, but we're trying to keep the flow of the game, which is why there's no designated timeouts or stops in play the way there is in basketball or something like that. I'm probably going to end up making a lot of basketball references because I feel like that's an easy comparison, and it's what my brain knows.
Analog
like the first thing in my head. The timekeeping ends up being very simple because then it's the same across the board. If you look at like basketball, for example, women's basketball, 4 quarters, halftime, like everything is kind of the same. Men's basketball, high school, you're playing in quarters. College, you're playing in halves. Pro, you're playing in quarters. It's really dumb why they do that. Because the women used to do it too, and they were like, why are we changing the system? Because it doesn't happen overseas. And the answer, the NCAA said it was too hard to change for the men. So take that with what you will, but the women in college play 4 quarters, just not 2 halves, just putting it out there. So it's very difficult to make the difference. But it's basically to just keep it the same across the board, make the timekeeping very simple. You can ref in one league and it's the same in another. There's not all these other rules based on the leagues, which is really helpful. So stoppage time. You kind of know what it is, you kind of don't. It's basically all of the time where the game actually stops, where there's reviews, where there's a player down, hydration breaks. If it's 1,000,000 degrees and the humidity is through the roof and nobody can breathe, you got to let them like recover because their bodies will shut down, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants injuries. Nobody wants passing out, like in general, just day to day. Nobody wants that, especially on a soccer pitch. It's also for any big reviews. Like you'll hear us talk about VAR a lot in something that was a video assisted referee review. The video assisted referee is problematic, but here we are. We have to respect it.
It's going to take its own time to.
Yeah. Sometimes it's 2 seconds. Sometimes it's 20 minutes. But that's why you'll see sometimes, depending on the different stations or different stadiums you're in, you'll see 45 minutes and then it'll just keep counting up, but it's still the first half. Or you'll see 45 minutes plus, and it's counting up in time that way. So sometimes you see 2 different clocks, but that extra bit over 45 minutes is considered stoppage time.
Yeah, and there's a fourth official who's keeping track of time along with the center ref, and that fourth official is the one that decides how much time. So they're just kind of keeping track of, like Angela said, injuries, water breaks, things like that. And then they'll be like, oh, an extra three minutes, really, Although in more recent times they've been
here's
getting
a whole
little
extra
bit
half.
more. Like, here's an extra 15 minutes. Oh, and then the second half, and also an extra 15 minutes. It's been
hours.
Yeah, it's been getting a little bit out of hand. But the whole point of it was, and I honestly think my gut says that they're going to roll back on that. But what they were doing is that they were trying to account for the actual time wasted. But then again, when you start thinking about all of this and the stoppage time and added, because the clock doesn't stop, it's also because they're running on an entire pitch, an entire football field's worth of space, and they're constantly running for those 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. In basketball, you're running on a court.
Start and stop. And you're sprinting.
You're sprinting on a really small court that fits within the goal box, and I'll show it in a minute when we look at the field, fits within that space, and you're doing short sprints, and then you're stopping because someone got fouled, and then you have to take a shot. And then in American football, you're setting up, you do a play where you move 2 inches, and then you reset, and you do it all over again. And it's
you switch offense, defense, and it's a whole different team that comes out. So there's a lot of different reasons why other sports stop and soccer doesn't. But it's just one of those things to take into consideration. So then we have stoppage time, right? There's also extra time. So extra time is essentially overtime for matches that need a decision. For tournaments, single elimination games, you go into extra time, you play an extra 15-minute period, you have halftime again, you play it again. Cool. If the game's still tied, you go into penalty kicks, then everybody stresses out. Nobody can breathe. It's a whole big stressful thing. But if somebody scores in that either extra time period, you got to play both. Someone scores, game over. To break the tie, I should say, because multiple people could score. But yeah, extra time is stressful. So when it comes to scoring, obviously you want your team to win. A win means you get 3 points. So you get your score, right? Let's say it's 2-1. Your team wins, Angel City in this case. They get 3 points added to their point total for the season. Goal differential is something we'll talk about later. But if you win, you get 3 points, and that goes in one column. If you lose, none. Obviously, the other team gets those 3 points. But if you tie, there's a draw. Each team gets 1 point because you participated. And yeah, like we said, yes, you can tie. It feels very counterintuitive to most sports and most competitions. But
I like it. I mean, I like the idea of being able to tie. It's like you said, there's a full season, right? There's 30 something games, if baseball could tie,
no,
that's anti-American, but
honestly,
but
no,
there's 162
games.
Yeah.
You have to make the decision. It's also a very different game because when you're running anywhere between 6 to 10 miles a game,
in 90 minutes.
You're gassed regardless. You these are top-notch athletes. You're gassed because your body is spent. You need more. You need to put more energy in to be able to put more energy out, and you don't have any reserves in the tank after that. So yeah,
Once you
okay,
get to
fine.
Once you start getting into that extra time where they've played for 2 hours now and they've been running like crazy, you notice the drop.
Oh, and you're really hoping that somebody subs in for you if you've been in for that long.
So yes, you can die. So with all of that gets put into a table, right? 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. That ends up helping out. You know, it's basically the way I explained the tying thing to a friend before was like, you can think of it as a point for participating, but it's also you were good enough to hold the other team to not score on
Right.
you, or not score more than you, right? So the effort was there. Of course, there are games where there's 0-0 and it was just a complete bore of a match, but there's also games that end up 0-0 that
are amazing.
exciting and amazing. And so, you know, there's a spectrum there, but the whole point of it is that you can have the excitement. Your team played a certain level that kept the other team at bay, and that deserves a point, you know, to all of that. But it's not divided where it's, oh, you get 2 points because of the tie and everybody gets 2 points. No. There's 1 point that's lost. So like at the beginning of the season, you can think of what's the possible point total that you can have if you went undefeated. And then anytime you tie, that 1 point just kind of goes off into the ether.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, there are 2 trophies, and this is mainly an American thing. In pretty much any other league around the world, the champion of the season is the team with the most points at the end of the season, and that's it. But
we
gotta
must
be
have
Merc.
playoffs.
And we need playoffs. So with that being said, there are 2 trophies. There's the most points at the end of the regular season gets the supporter shield. And that is something that has come around from like the fact that, you know, that's what the legacy kind of championship thing is. It's also presented by the idea is it's presented by the supporters, all the fans that have come day in, week in, week out with that. And we have this beautiful brand new shield
made by Tiffany.
The shield from 2 years ago was literally a cookie sheet.
It's a plate.
It was no, like the winners were going to bake some cookies on that thing. It was really sad and
I'm
kind
like
of
looking.
offensive.
Do I have something that could like? Yay, we won.
I think someone found the engraving website where you can order your own.
Probably.
I mean, like,
it felt very
it was off
like
the shelf.
What was that store that used to be in the mall? Things Remembered. Do you remember that? Where you would go in and they could engrave whatever, like photo albums, vases.
It was pretty much one of those. So that's what the old supporter shield. Now we've got this beautiful, badass.
It's big
shield. It's literally a shield.
It's
so when
cool.
Orlando won it this past season, Marta held it as like an actual shield. There's a handle in the back.
I would say she's Captain America, but she's Captain Brazil.
But yes, that thing it's big. Mm-hmm. And so with that, then you move on into the playoffs. So depending on how you ended up in the standings, you take the top teams and you move into a playoff, and that's where you start getting these extra time games because it's single elimination. You kind of go all the way through the end, and the playoff winner wins the championship cup. So just like in any other American sport, if you get hot at the right time and can make it through the playoffs, you could be the one that squeaked into the playoffs, but still win the whole thing. So,
or you can run the table like Orlando did this last season.
Yeah.
Run the table the whole season.
You can be like
literally be in first place and then just
dominant and then
just blow through teams like it was no big deal in the playoffs. Storybook season for sure.
Yeah. So those are all the basics. Your Footy refresher on where we're at, what we're playing for. So now let's talk about all our little refreshers of on-field shenanigans that happen on there.
I just want to say I love these graphics coming up. So like I said, my ever creative co-host made these slides. So thank you very much. They are great.
So thank you. Well, the first, we'll just talk about the field. So the field, it's this big rectangular field. You've probably seen it before. in soccer, it's referred to as the pitch in soccer. There's a center circle. Center circle is where you basically just start. That's whenever you, after a goal or at the beginning of the game or beginning of the half, you put your ball in the center of that center circle. All the players kind of have to stand around it. Think of the basketball key in a free throw shot, and that's where you start. You kick it off, and then you get the game going, and it's just that's what it is. Then you have the touch line, which is the long line in the rectangle. If the ball goes out on that end, on either one of the long ends,
completely
it's going to be
over
a throw
the line.
Completely. So that is a thing
completely
about,
over the line.
That is the thing about soccer, is that you can run outside of the line and still dribble the ball and it still be in play, because the full sphere of the ball needs to be past the line. And that's the same thing for goals. If a goalie stops the ball at the line, it's not a goal. It has to completely pass the line. So with the touch line, if the ball goes out on that side, whoever kicked it out, or whoever was the last team to touch it before it went out, the opposite team gets to throw it in. And a throw in is basically, it's one of the only times really that most of the main players get to use their hands. Beyond that, it's just feet and body and head.
Yep.
Only. And then next we have the end line, which is the short side of the rectangle. And if the ball goes out from here, two things can happen. One, if it's our own team if it's our defensive half, so where our goalie is, and we knock the ball out on this side, then the ball gets reset on one of the corners and the opposite team gets to kick it from the corner and try to score from there. If the other team is the one that knocks it out of that end line, then we get to reset the ball. The penalty box is the giant box that's here. That is the goalie safe zone. The goalie is the only player that can touch the ball with their hands throughout the game, but they can only do so within this big box. And when I was talking about the basketball court earlier, the basketball court, regulation size basketball court fits within this box.
Yep.
So that shows you the scale that people are running.
Yeah, it's
during these matches.
Basketball is very much a game of sprinting. Soccer is a game of long distance cross country runs in a box.
Yeah. Hence why I got into cross country running after I stopped playing soccer.
And hence why I stopped running after I stopped playing basketball. Track and field
and then
involves a field, and that's where I landed.
So within this penalty box also is, if there is a foul within this box, that is what constitutes that penalty kick, right? And the penalty kick, the opposing team gets to set the ball in that nice big dot in the middle of that and go one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So you kind of, you want to be extra careful when you're in that area. The goal box itself is the smaller box that's right in front of the goal. And when the ball went out of that end line side and we get to kick it off from the goal box, it means that it can be placed anywhere along the line of that box to be reset and restarted, kick the ball out, and kind of keep going from there. And like I said, if anything happens, if there's a card, if there's a foul, if there's something that happens within the penalty area, there's the penalty spot that you get to go one-on-one with the keeper. And then what else? Oh yeah, and then the corner kick. So there you go. All of the kind of general things you want to know about this. Next, we are talking about our positions. We have 11 players on the field, and the goalkeeper is the first one, and you know where they're going to be. They're going to be the one with the big old gloves, and is going to be standing right in front of that goal. Then you've got a defensive line. Then you've got the midfield, and you've got the forwards. This is a very kind of standard way of placing everybody. We will eventually get to a point where we start talking about tactics and how these players can move around. That will be a future episode if you're interested. But for the gist of it, there are 10 players that are kind of in the field playing, plus the goalkeeper as the 11th player on the field. And then they just kind of go at it. yeah, there's not much you can do. And really, in the best way that you can kind of explain this is the forwards are the ones that are going to go all the way towards the other side and try to score. Mainly the midfield, they're going to try to score, but they're also going to hang back and kind of try to be that stopping point if the ball starts coming the other way. And the defense is the defense, like
defense does what defense does. Yeah,
exactly. So there you go. And then we get to the rules. And here's a very truncated and very light version of all this. We're not going to get deep into stuff. If you want to, we can probably do another one of these with like full on rules.
All the different fouls, all the different calls, yeah.
The main things you want to know basically is when the ref blows the whistle, if there's a card that comes out. Because if there's a foul and the ref is, that was a foul, you shouldn't have done that, but let's keep going. You'll just hear the whistle, they'll reset the ball, and then we'll keep going. When the card comes out, that's when everybody gets riled up. So a yellow card, it's essentially the ref saying, hey, stop that. Slap on the wrist.
Like you've done it a couple times. I told you to stop. I blew the whistle. We had a foul. Now you're in trouble. Now this goes against you.
Here's your warning, right? In soccer, you only get 2 warnings. So 2 warnings, 2 yellow cards equal a red card. So when you get that second yellow card,
you're out.
Oh, shit. And then you get that red card. So 2 yellows equals the red. Ref is basically saying, hey, I told you to stop that. Now you got to go. You got to leave. And when you get that red card, basically you have to leave the pitch. You can't even be on the sidelines anymore.
You have to go to the locker room. Like you're essentially ejected when you get a red card.
So you can have the 2 yellow cards that will equal a red. You can also get a straight red. And that one, if you go basically 0 to 100 and you get that straight red, the ref is basically saying, what the hell was that? Off with you. Go. Get. So.
Yeah. It's basically like a flagrant foul or really a flagrant too. Yeah. Like where you're going for blood. And don't do that. Yeah. Sometimes it happens accidentally. Like there's a collision or something like that where it ends up being like really bad. And somebody gets carded like that. But ideally, you don't want a red card because what happens is with yellows, with reds, you accumulate the infractions and then you end up getting suspended after a certain number. So don't. Yeah.
And the other thing with a red card is you are being ejected. So that player has been ejected from the game. Like I said, they got to go to the locker room. They can't even be on the sideline anymore. And that team doesn't get to replace that player.
Nope.
So now when the teams were even playing 10 on 10, now the other team that got the red card is playing one person down. And so now it's 10 on 9. Mm-hmm. And then tactics change. Then you got to especially if who got the red, was it one of your attacking kind of scoring players? Was it one of your defense? And now you have to, it affects the game a lot. So it's a reason why refs don't want to give the second yellow.
Yeah, like they don't give it. Players don't want to get it. It's one of those things where it's like your mom is like telling you like, hey, cut it out. I don't want to ground you. I don't want you to get in trouble. This is dumb. You know better. And then you get the red card and then you get I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Go to your room. And it's, yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah. So the straight red here, like we said, it's like an egregious foul. There's another way of getting a red, and it's called the Dogso red
and it's
card.
The worst.
And yeah, so the Dogso red card is the denial of goal scoring opportunity. And it basically means that you fouled the player, and it could have been an easy light foul. Like it could have been a yellow card type foul.
Yeah.
But because the player was on a breakaway and was there was no other defender there, and so your last ditch effort was to like try to slide and tackle them or something, or didn't deny them of that opportunity. If they had a clear shot that could have resulted in a goal, straight red. There's no arguing about it. There's no what does the ref think? This one's the most clear cut way of getting a card. It's also one of the dumbest ones to get a card, and you get that red card. Now, one of the other things about red cards is that, as we were saying, the yellow card, you can accumulate them and then you get suspensions later on if you get too many over a certain number of games. Red cards, automatically suspend you for the next game also.
Yep.
And if you get a straight red, I don't know if they still do. Do they do this in the NWSL where if you get the straight red, it's like up to 3 games?
I think it depends on what happened.
On the severity, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on severity.
Yeah. But either way, at the minimum, you get suspended for 1 more game. So you get thrown out of that match and you get suspended for another one. So it's an event when a red card comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
all right, now we get to get into the fun stuff. So a TIFO, essentially, like Mario said in the slide, big ass fan art. We saw one a little bit earlier when we were talking about La Fortaleza, where it was like, exactly. So teams around the world make, not even the teams, let me clarify, like rewind, because this is important. The supporters of teams make these. They can be big, they can be small, they can be homemade. There's so many ways to make TIFOs. The biggest thing is that they are fan made. They're made by the supporter sections for the team. That's like the number one thing. The cool thing about TIFOs, so TIFO is actually Italian slang. And it comes from tifosi, which is the Italian word for like people who had typhus, like typhoid fever, which is wild because it's like that fever causes delirium and fans are like, they're fanatics. So you're so into it. There's a quote from Bring It On in the beginning where she's got the fever, people. And that's what I think of. It has nothing to do with Bring It On because it was meant when the whole plot of the movie was different, but it doesn't matter. I know too much about that movie. If you've listened to literally any episode of this podcast, you probably know that. But TIFO, like the history of TIFOs is just really cool. And it's such a cool thing when you're in the stadium. And that's like part of the reason why I like sitting opposite supporter sections, is because I want to see the TIFOs. I want to see the artwork. I want to see the signs. I want to see the presentation of support that folks are giving to this team. And like the one picture in the middle, La Fortaleza, was so impactful. Like we joke here that I cry all the time. So does Cap. So does Allie Riley. And when this went up, and we'll never forget that because the cameras were on her and she didn't realize why. And then the TIFO went up and she just was like on the pitch, just happy season opener. And then I want to say the one on the right is from the first season. And yeah, that was our first TIFO.
Right, it was the very first one. Yeah. And that one came out. And then the one on the left was for the Pride
this
match,
last season's Pride night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didi Heritage was our goalie at the time. She's no longer with the team. But that's like her as the beacon of pride for Angel City. And yeah, it was fantastic. I know a couple people who have been in the design teams and have worked on the TIFOs, and it's such a group effort put together by hundreds of people, and it's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the biggie. I first want to make the designation that it's not offsides. There's not an S at the end. It's just offside.
My slide got corrected.
Yeah. And it was very satisfying to just be like, boop, like backspace. Nope. Delete. So the thing is, the offside rule is essentially the prevention of one player just chilling near the opposing goal. Like one player on your team on the opposite side, chilling by the opposite team's goal. So you can just launch a ball and they can score. If you do watch basketball, you can cherry pick. You can throw from baseline to baseline. You know, you can inbound the pass the whole length of the court. No big deal. In soccer, 1, it's very hard to do that. 2, it throws off everything and it's really weird. So the idea is that all of your attacking players are moving with the defense. Like everybody is kind of in this match going back and forth. And you because you don't want somebody just hanging out on the opposite side of the pitch, you have to be strategic. Your defense has to be strategic to move with those opposing forwards. Your forwards have to be strategic, moving with the defense on the other team, because what happens is that, okay, so Angel City has the ball. We're moving up the pitch. Our forward most attacking player. So the forward who's the closest to the opposing goal. So in this case, where that dotted line is, little pink one, that person cannot be ahead of the very last defender from the other team. That makes sense because, there's still that opposition. There's still that level of defense. But when the ball gets passed forward by the pink team's player, like their midfielder, their defender, whatever, if that player, so if the pink player by the dotted line knows they're faster than the other person, they can just take off and book it towards the goal because they know the ball's going to go overhead. The thing is, you can't go past that defender until the ball is in forward motion.
Yeah, it's at the point of contact for the ball. As soon as the ball is kicked, that is where they draw the line when they start looking whether it was offsides or not.
Right. It's basically like the starting gun in a race. Like the ball gets kicked, that's when you can go. It's essentially the starting gun. And if you could be in line with someone, basically holding hands, standing there together. And if you're just faster than them, cool. But if you start running before them, then no, offside. That's essentially it. It feels hard, but it's not hard. It's hard to explain, but it's not a hard concept once you understand it.
It's not a hard concept. I think what it is that it's not a hard concept. It's a hard thing to see in real time.
Yes.
Especially when you're at different angles throughout the stadium, or even when you're like watching it on TV or things.
Right.
Like it's kind of hard to see it in real time. And that's one of the reasons that, you have the center referee, the referee that's kind of running around the field with all the players. And then you have a referee on each line that is looking to see if the ball goes out of bounds. Now, that referee that's on the line, their job is to keep pace with that last defender. So they're the ones straight directly in line with that last defender. So they're the ones that have the clearest view of was that other player ahead of them or not.
Right.
But everybody else is in a stadium that's either up high or to the sides. So it's hard to see in real time depending on where you're at. So it's one of those where once you see it enough, it'll start to make sense. You can understand the concept, but until you actually see it in progress, it's
a difficult concept to explain, which makes it difficult to see, and then it's just difficult to see. It's a conundrum. Okay, so rapid fire extra terms. We've got basically a vocab list.
Okay, yeah, and these can always go into more depth in later episodes if we need to, but a lot of these are really just kind of what they are. So we've got the derby, or the derby if you want to pronounce it the way the English do, the derby match or the rivalry match. It's what you would call technically the Dodgers versus San Diego, or the Dodgers versus the Giants, or I
was like, get it right.
Yeah. So we have been kind of placed with San Diego and with Bay FC as our rivals. Are they truly our rivals? I mean, I don't know. We kind of have some history.
There's been some disparity the last couple
Portland
seasons.
And with who else beyond Portland, Seattle,
Utah, Bay FC, and San Diego are the West Coast teams, which you're going to end up seeing more of normally. But I don't know. I mean, California in itself is a strange place. And we have 5 states in one. And sports rivalries within the state are bonkers. And I love them so much, mostly because my teams are good and we win a lot of them. I'm an LA girl through and through. I did see, with everything that's happened in the city this last month and a half, there's been a lot of fun conversation of, does LA even care? People are like talking shit left and right. They're talking smack, and it's okay. So I don't care. This is my city. San Francisco, the Bay Area, There's some big animosity, and then people come here and it's, oh yeah, I don't really care. Or San Diego, same thing. I don't care. But it is very fun to be part of a sport fandom, which is essentially what fan bases are, just big fandoms of teams that are so competition inducing. Oh my God, I hate this team. I love that part of sports. I love this group so much that this one is just terrible. Why? Because they're there. They just exist and I hate them.
Yeah. The part of LA that people think is the LA that doesn't care. It's typically the kind of the glitzy paparazzi where the Hollywoody LA, which is not LA.
It's not LA. No, right? But I mean
real LA.
That LA cares. Doesn't care about what other people think about it, which is true.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
no, but what I'm saying is it's not one of those questions
not the shallow people, whatever. They can go back to whatever city they moved here from.
You also have to talk about the fact that when people also ask, oh, does LA even care about their team? Angel City averages 20,000 people a game. People care. But we're also in LA. There's the beach. There's the mountains. There's 2 to 3 other teams playing any given day of the week. Yeah, sports wise, there's a ton, and then there's also just other things to do in LA that's just kind of competing for your attention. So yeah, LA people care. So
absolutely. We're a loyal base. For better, for worse.
All right. The counterattack, very self-explanatory. If whatever team has the ball and they're kind of heading towards the goal, if they get stripped from the ball and the other team just kind of starts attacking the other way, they've been countered. They're countering the attack. So there you go. Pretty straightforward. Playing from the back, it's a term that you might hear a lot in broadcasts or, when you're watching things about the sport.
Or if really means any Angel City game the last 3 seasons.
In the last, playing from the back is a favorite of our past coaches. It basically means that we are holding and controlling the ball from that defensive line before we move it up. So we're letting that defensive line kind of hold up play, slow the ball down, and then start moving it forward instead of just saying, here, lob it to the front and let the front just keep attacking and doing it that way. And letting them control the match, it's letting the defense control the match. A switch, basically switching sides. If you were on one far end of the field and you passed it to the other end, so if you were playing on the right, you passed it to the player on the left. I know I showed the wrong hands, but whatever.
It's mirrored. What are you talking about?
It's called a switch. Parking the bus. That is a term that you'll hear a lot also, especially when a team is ahead and really wants to kind of just lock down the 3 points, lock down that win. A lot of the players will start falling back into a more defensive position. And instead of, the normal 4 defenders that you have in the back, you'll have half the field playing defense. And so now there's this kind of big wall of defenders that the other team has to try to get past. And sometimes those can be pretty boring. Sometimes that can actually be pretty exciting, depending on how, attacking minded the other team is. So it is what it is. A brace is when one player scores 2 points within the match by themselves, and a hat trick is one player scoring 3 points. And there is also a seldomly used term, but we like to kind of reference it whenever we can. The perfect hat trick is someone who scored with their left, someone who scored with their right, and someone who scored with their head. You get all 3.
Which is wild. All right, so we also have playing the advantage. So this is when you have the ball, you get fouled, but it doesn't really impede anything. So it's just play on. You just play on, you play through it because you recovered. There's no sense in stopping the game when it doesn't actually change anything, which honestly, this might be my favorite rule of soccer, because sometimes there'll be something that happens in basketball. I've been watching a lot of basketball lately, and I'm just like, why did you just, nothing happened. Why did this have to stop the ball? When the shot clock expires, but the other team has the ball, don't stop the ball and stop it completely. Just keep going. So
that's my main annoyance with the other sports where the clock stops. I know it's strategic.
Yes.
Right? Because you're playing within the rules
sometimes
of the
it's
game.
strategic. Sometimes it's just logistics and dumb.
But yes, the number one rule with the idea of playing advantage, which sometimes some players tend to forget, and then that's when the fan base will get upset. You play till the whistle. You play to the whistle. If you don't hear a whistle,
you play through.
There was no foul. You can be upset and mad, as pissed off as you want, but if there was no whistle, you did not get fouled.
Yeah, essentially. So. And that's one of those things that I think a lot of coaches try to instill, and somehow at a young age, you play until you hear a whistle. But it's really hard to remember that when you just got body checked into the sun and nothing happened.
Yeah.
I'll give everybody grace on that, because as somebody who body checks some people in her lifetime, that's on you.
Oh no, I
get up.
Yeah. Same thing. I've pushed and been pushed. So
yeah. So whatever.
Yeah.
So a 6-point game. This is when teams are very close in the standings, and we said, you win a game, you get 3 points. But when you're playing a team, let's say you're within 2 points in the standings, you win the game, that means the other team gets 0 point. You can essentially jump 6 points because they're getting 0, you're getting 3, and you're putting them like behind.
They
extra.
Can't make up those 3 points.
Yeah.
That is 3 points that went away that they can't make up. Mm-hmm.
So it essentially either opens or closes a gap by 6 points because of the jump that happens when you win a situation like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you were on the lower end of that, because if they were ahead of you, however many points, say they were ahead of you 4 points or whatever, and you won that match and they lost, they don't move from their position, but you got closer to them. So it's a lot of those matches when, especially it's more talked about when it's like further on along in the season.
Yeah.
But it's a very kind of important way to designate like a game that's kind of has higher stakes to them.
Mm-hmm. So this is a really fun one. I'm not sure where this term came from. I've tried to look it up and then I forget halfway through. But a nutmeg, or getting megged, is when the person who has the ball is going to their defender. And granted, most of the time the defenders are running backwards or like sideways and, all which ways. So it's when you're dribbling the ball with your feet, obviously, and you essentially pass it to yourself through their legs, like as they're running, and the ball just goes shoop right on through. It can also be a pass, but it's even cooler when you just dink it to the side and it goes through their legs. And it's one of those things, like when it's done right, it stings. It's like, ooh, oh dang, they just got megged hard. Oh my gosh. But it's always fun to see when it happens, whether it's to your team or not. It's just cool. A bicycle kick. If you are an Angel City fan, you know we have merch related to bicycle kicks, because the Sydney Leroux in the last game of a season where we ended up winning 5-1 just blew everyone's mind. If BMO had a roof, it would have been blown off. It was insane. This ball there was a goal attempted. It got blocked by the keeper. It comes back out. And she's facing in the most perfect direction to just kick up, essentially do a half backwards cartwheel and just flip her whole body over to score a goal. So a bicycle kick is dope. That's it. It's just dope. It's cool.
Yeah. You'll see people try it. And when people try it, people get excited, but then ultimately go like, well, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like, in order to pull it off, you have to go 100%.
Yeah, you can't half-ass it at all. And the cool thing with the one Sid did, and she's known for being a prolific scorer, but also like a trick shot scorer by accident, because she just practices them. And now that her son is old enough and loves soccer, they practice them together. And she had been teaching him how to do a bicycle kick. And then the opportunity literally presented itself. And she was like, here you go. And the video of them practicing in their backyard and then it happening, and then Cassius in the stands like freaking out, crying, oh my God, a bicycle. Like, It's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. Definitely go look it up. We've posted it a million times. We'll post it a million more times. I will watch it until my eyes bleed. It's wonderful. And then we've got the Panenka, which is essentially a really interesting way to insult a keeper. So you're taking a PK, you're on that little dot, the pressure's on, and you just chip the ball like in golf and you just get it up high and over, and it's a soft kick. It's not this rocket that you're used to seeing. It's just a little up, and it can throw. It's when like pitchers go from throwing 90 miles an hour to 65, and it messes up a batter because it's so slow in comparison.
Yeah, it's rookie of the year.
Yeah,
floater.
It's the dichotomy of like you're used to something coming at you so fast, and then it's just this little like soft shot, like barely touched, and then if it goes in, it's oh damn it.
Yeah, that's another one where like it's a full commitment, but it's also there's been attempts out of Panenka where, you know, the whole thing is selling that you're going to be like launching it and then doing that little dink, right? But there's been attempts where like they do that and the keeper doesn't fall for it, so they just kind of stand there while you kind of lob
it just looks so
like,
sad.
Nope. It's just, no, what are you doing? And there's other times where like the keeper goes for it and completely dives one way or the other, and then you've just kind of
this thing like just dribbles in all slow.
Yeah, and there's no way for them to recover and come back to get it. So then it's just it's a dirty way to rub it in the face. It's not a dirty goal by any means. It's a goal, but it's yeah.
All right, and then like the bonus term is shithousery. We talk about it a lot because there's been a lot of shithousery. It's kind of when everything starts, it's soccer's version of a shenanigans. It's when everything starts to go off the rails. There's fouls, there's chippy plays, there's pushing, there's shoving, there's garbage time, there's time wasting. The keepers go move up the field. You know, you stop the ball and then you lay on it and then you take 10 seconds to get up. It's ways to waste time, essentially.
Yes.
And it's fine until it's not fine and it's a problem, and then the refs get involved and they're like, hurry up, and then you get in trouble and then you get a yellow card and it's a whole thing.
It's fine when it's us. When it's not us, it's a way to really, really piss off the opposing team and the opposing team's fan base, especially when you're doing it like
at another stadium.
At another stadium. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like, you know, I was mentioning my annoyance of like fouls and stuff like that in like basketball or football or what, or, you know, all the kind of time resetting and things like that. But this is essentially, you know, our version of it. The clock doesn't stop. So, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep dribbling the ball and possibly lose it? Or are you just going to take your time and walk it? And if a defender comes over, you're just going to hold it away from them, you know, kind of playing
it's like
keep
you can't
away.
touch it. Yeah.
Or basically it's time wasting in the best, most creative ways you can. If you're about to throw in the ball, you get ready, you're gonna throw it, and then you're like, oh wait, no, you take it, and then you leave the ball there
you
for your
switch it.
teammate to come get it.
It's parking the bus in the most annoying way possible, because when you're parking the bus, there's a defensive strategy there. You know the other team is in a time crunch, they've got to score, and then all of a sudden every single person on your team turns around and plays defense and faces up and is, let's go. Bet you get past all 10 of us. When the shithousery comes in is when it's, oh, we're winning. I'm gonna lay down. I'm just gonna lay down and play dead. Like I'm going to make sure I have to tie my shoe 3 times, or like, I have a cramp. Oh, I have like my hair. Oh, you know, like whatever it is, like, oh, something happened. Something in my eye.
At one point, I know a lot of times it happens towards the end of the game, but I always wondered, this, especially this past season, if Dee Dee's was just a constant shithousery every time she went down and had to get the medical team. And so it was bad enough where everybody just knew water break.
Yeah.
Just like, go get your water.
I do think she had like a quiet injury though, because she like, there was, especially towards the end of the season, there were times where I'm like, that's not a normal
way to
strategic reason, the way it would come across.
But I also wouldn't put it
Same.
past her that there was a couple times where she's, like,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, my
so-
side. I drank too much milk before, or I ate too much before I went swimming and I have a side cramp.
So thank you, everyone. That was our Soccer 101 course. And we have a Soccer 201 coming up. We are going to be talking a little bit more about positions, the players that are in those positions, what roles they kind of play. And we hopefully will have a special guest to help
super
talk
exciting.
about all of that. And that will be coming up next. So hopefully you can join us for that. And yeah, if you liked what you heard, hit the subscribe button, follow us for the rest of the season. We will be covering Angel City and the NWSL in general, but with some rose-colored glasses for the majority of the season.
The Sol Rosa colored glasses, my friend.
If you like what you heard, go check out casualfc.com for all the pod links, all the merch, all the everything. Links to other women's sports podcasts too. There's a bunch of great stuff on there. Follow our socials at Casual FC Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and at casualfc.com on Blue Sky. So follow us there. Come join the Discord. We have the links in our socials on how to get there. The Discord is fun. It's a great group of people. We get to talk about the games. We get to live chat about the games at times. And it's just a really fun place to be and a really fun place to learn. And then if you want to support the pod, best free way to do it, comment and hit subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Leave us a review, share one of our posts. I mean, it costs you nothing, and it helps us out a lot. Or we also have a merch store. If you look at casualfc.com, there's a merch link, and we have stuff coming out. We have some things planned that we're bringing up. I've got a new job, so things are moving a little bit slower than planned. But we do want to get some kind of fun stuff out during the season. And if you just don't need extra shit in your house, then you can always support the pod by buying us a coffee. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/casualfcpod, it's an easy way to throw us $1 or $2 to help us kind of keep going with what we're doing. And this has been a great passion project for Angela and I, and we just want to keep this thing going. And hopefully you guys are along for the ride too.
I mean, that'd be cool. So we're not just talking into the void forever.
I mean, we have fun talking to each other. So, if you want to join in our conversations, there you go. So with that being said, we'll catch you on the next one, and we'll catch you for the rest of the season, and let's go.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.